With the Modesto Nuts getting at least a 1-year reprieve and the Visalia Rawhide having secured its minor league future, there is at least some cause for optimism, at least on the surface here in California. Certainly, there is hope where no such hope existed before. Both teams seem to be headed for extinction, much to the chagrin of their adoring hometown fans. Now, though, there's a path forward. Well, things are a little more complicated than that. Modesto, in particular, may be getting played here. However, the proceedings over in Visalia have potentially shown the way forward for team and city officials. Even that, though, is fraught with some complications. To understand why that is, let's start with what has unfolded down in the gateway to the Sequoias. At the start of this very year, Visalia found itself in a situation many minor league towns across the country have found themselves in since MLB took control of MILB. Essentially, Major League Baseball forced minor league owners to make a bunch of expensive stadium upgrades or risk being booted from the shrinking farm system pyramid. Those minor league owners agreed to make the upgrades with really no other options at their disposal. They then went to cities and panicked, saying, "You have to pay for this or we will leave town with our team." By the way, this is not an oversimplification of the situation. As the city of Visalia went to court against Rawhide owner Sam Siegel, the two sides basically came to agreement on that very scenario playing out. Siegel had no other option than to agree to the pricey upgrades that MLB wanted, since the alternative was to lose the franchise altogether. Both sides concurred in arbitration that Major League Baseball was to blame for the predicament they found themselves in. The Rawhide situation itself looked fairly dire over the summer, with neither side eager to pick up the tab on an estimated $7 million in needed facility upgrades. Then, just last week, Visalia and Rawhide ownership struck a deal that sees Valley Strong Ballpark get needed improvements, with both sides taking on some of the costs. There are a few things to note about this. First, the city of Visalia has invested more than $15 million in the stadium since 2003. It's not as if this is a neglected facility. Second, Major League Baseball has done a fairly horrific job of communicating to teams what exactly is needed to meet the minimum requirements they have set. The wording's vague, what's needed is vague. It's just very unfortunate that minor league team owners are being asked to do such nebulous things. A lot of the time, everyone involved is just sort of guessing, which is why improvement costs to Valley Strong Ballpark kept changing. Upgrade estimates started at $10 million, shrunk down to $7 million, $5.7 million was mooted. To that end, the most interesting thing about the story in Visalia is what wasn't mentioned. Neither the cost each side will pay to fix up the venue, nor how long the team is committed to the city was announced. When Rob Manfred and his cronies rolled out the new minor league rules, all player-developed licenses, the agreement which binds clubs to the MILB system, was for 10 years. That was a blanket agreement. Every minor league team in the country has that 10-year agreement in place. It seems doubtful that has changed even with the stadium agreement in Visalia. This, of course, means the Rawhide could still be a few years away from being brushed aside, erased from the minor league baseball map, should MLB reduce the number of teams once again down the line. Remember, they shrunk it down to 140, and the rumor has long been out there that Major League Baseball would like to see 60 or so minor league ball clubs as part of their setup. Some 2 hours up the highway in Central California, the Modesto Nuts may be trying to convince themselves that a similar scenario is playing out that will see them save their own much-loved minor league baseball franchise. Maybe that's true, or maybe the Nuts are just getting played here. When it was revealed that the Modesto city government and Nuts officials, including those from the Seattle Mariners, which owns the single-A ball club, had reached a deal to keep the team in town for 2025 while creating an exclusive negotiating window for a long-term deal, it was hailed as a good first step, and it certainly is that. However, it's absolutely vital to remain pragmatic in such matters. From top to bottom, the sport of baseball is populated with liars who say one thing and do another. It is this reality that has made some of the details about the Nuts' short-term lease extension all the more curious. For starters, Modesto Mayor Sue Zwellen told the media that the Seattle Mariners have previously stated they would pay for the more than $30 million in needed upgrades at John Thurman Field. This, of course, is what is required to keep the Nuts in town. Sorry, but pardon me, the notorious spendthrift Mariners could have made such an extraordinary claim, but believing it would be pretty foolish. This ownership group makes Scrooge McDuck seem like a generous, carefree spender. Seriously, you have all this untold wealth and Lunchpad McQuack is your guy. What are you doing, McDuck? Stop swimming in coins and hire a competent pilot already. Oh, sorry, I got a bit off track there. Back to the Mariners. There is no way they would pay tens of millions of dollars to fix up John Thurman Field unless they were getting something in return. You know, this could be outright ownership of the stadium and the land. It could be something else, but the Mariners would want something pretty big in return for investing in stadium upgrades. Let's not forget, these are the bums who nickel and dimed Seattle over a new lease agreement for the spectacular T-Mobile Park. The second thing that has received a lot of coverage about the deal between Modesto and the Mariners is the exclusive negotiating window the two sides have to get a long-term deal done. The city boasting about this is utterly naive. That is because the Mariners' plans for the single A team should they leave Central California are very much well known already. They don't need to negotiate with anyone else. If nothing comes to fruition in Modesto, the Mariners already have their plan B in place. And for all we know, it could actually be their plan A. When you zoom out and look at the big picture, an extra year in their current home would probably be better than the alternative, which was to have two single A ball clubs sharing the same stadium down in Southern California. You see, a new facility in Ontario, California will not open until March 2026. There was to be some team reshuffling, but basically the Nuts, along with the franchises in San Bernardino and Rancho Cucamonga, were going to play at these three stadiums. No one really knew the full details of which one would be where, but this was the plan. Importantly, though, only two venues would have been available for 2025, creating a tricky situation. With that Ontario stadium to begin construction shortly, there's also still a need in this region for a third team. That is what worries me most about the Nuts. It is possible this is a genuine attempt to keep baseball in Modesto. I really hope it is that. It's also very possible the city is simply getting played by the Mariners and by proxy Diamond Baseball Holdings, who eventually wants to buy the team. Exclusive negotiating window or not, everyone knows what's going to happen with the Nuts if they don't get that deal done in Modesto. That's why the window itself is kind of meaningless. It's not really a win for anyone. What's more, Modesto has actually spared everyone in minor league baseball from the embarrassment of having two single-A teams playing in the same stadium in 2025. That would have been a bad look. Attendance for the second team would have likely been terrible because what connection is the community going to have to it in the first place? Then again, optics haven't stopped MLB from doing something similar, so who knows if they actually cared or not. Even if Modesto gets a deal done to keep the Nuts long-term, and make no mistake, that's what I think we're all rooting for here, just how long-term is long-term? Those player development license deals expire in a few years' time. There's no guarantee that any of the franchises are going to be MLB-connected affiliates come 2032. This fact adds an extra variable to negotiations. How much is Modesto willing to cede without some kind of PDL extension? An extension which is most likely not going to happen, as MLB wants to have all of its teams on the same timeline so it can make sweeping changes when it sees fit. Make no mistake, Visalia has shown it is possible for deals to get done between cities, team owners, and MLB that keeps minor league franchises in their hometowns. We just don't know how long that is going to be for. The situation in Modesto is even more complex than what we saw in Visalia. Even with that, there's still quite a bit of risk for the city of Visalia here. They're going to pump money into a stadium that may actually not have a minor league team in a few years' time. We know baseball will take care of the owners by offering them a generous buyout. The cities get no such buyout from baseball. We don't actually know what the end goal here is for the Mariners, for DPH, for all of these other parties involved. Is this a genuine attempt to keep baseball in Modesto? And even if it is, how long is that attempt for? And should the city be willing to work with a partner who may not be negotiating in such good faith? They say, don't hate the player, hate the game. Well, if Modesto gets played and the Nuts leave town either after 2025 or after 2032, I can assure you they will hate the game, that game being baseball. Thank you for watching this video. To learn more about the destruction of minor league baseball as a whole in America, video upper right hand corner of your screen, and to get to know the lost sports teams of Sacramento, those teams no longer with us, video lower right hand corner. Until next time, I am Cheyenne Hollis, this is Touchback, and as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.